Marshall Aid was more than a gesture of American belief in British staying power and integrity. With it, they were able to buy the raw materials, and therefore the time they needed to get their industrial machinery into full production again. Their industries couldn't operate without fuel, but their coal mines needed new machinery to step up their industrial output. American mining equipment was rushed in, while they got down to the task of manufacturing their own specialized machinery for the thin seams of Britain's deep pits. Their generating plant had not been renewed during 5.5 years of war. Marshall Aid rushed them the vital equipment they needed to carry the load while they got to work building their own. In the lonely glens of Scotland, new dams, pipelines, generating stations began to rise. Here was the promise of a vast new hydroelectric scheme to power all Scotland and feed a current into Britain's overstrained network of cables. They needed new steel plants. Marshall Aid covered much of the dollar expenditure needed to build and equip them. And now, in South Wales, there is coming into production a steel plant which will outproduce the best in Europe. And all this time, 50 million mouths had to be fed. Unable to import $1's worth of food over and above sheer necessities, Britain stepped up her agricultural output. But her farms needed new implements, and her land was hungry for fertilizers. Marshall Aid poured in a steady stream of imports. Wheat, sugar and meat to feed her workers, cotton, oil, metals and chemicals to enable her factories to build the implements she needed. But Marshall Aid was not the whole story by any means. As our industrial output mounted, our exports were stepped up to half as much again as pre-war. To help pay for our imports and balance our economic ledger, Britain looked more than ever to the all-important dollar market. When devaluation was forced upon them, it meant just one more stepping up of effort. They were urged on by a man who made no attempt at dressing up the picture for them. In a nationwide hookup, Sir Stafford Cripps said,
"We are producing at record levels and exporting half as much again as we were before the war. But, despite this, we've been quite unable to earn enough dollars. We must either earn more dollars or spend less to get a balance. I do appeal most earnestly and with all my strength to our manufacturers and exporters to redouble their efforts to sell their goods in dollar markets."
And as one phase of the Marshall Plan comes to a successful close, another moves to the center of the stage. To deal with the present program of cooperation with a great sister democracy, we have a new chief of E.C.A. in Britain, William L. Batt, a leading American engineer and businessman who played an important part in providing the materials for the winning of the last war when he was vice chairman of our War Production Board. To him we look for a glimpse into the future, a future in which Americans and Britons will stand side by side in defending our way of life and solving our common problems.
It was a heartening thing to me to arrive in the United Kingdom and to find that our great friend and neighbor had recovered her economic health to the point where she can now stand on her own feet. It was fine also to see the clear evidence that a major part of the Marshall Plan had proved so successful in this country and so much ahead of schedule. Now our biggest efforts are being devoted to providing what help we can in making this recovery stick. Britain's main task is to step up enormously the efficiency of her industry and agriculture so that she can build up her own defenses and help build those of her neighbors against this menace of totalitarian aggression, maintain the volume of exports on which our economic life depends, and support a standard of life for her brave people. A people who have not yet caught their breath from the exhausting efforts and losses of the last war. We are getting on with the task of strengthening the British economy so that the British people may be able to make that great contribution to the defense of our democratic institutions which they so urgently desire to make.
Defense of our democratic civilization. Well, even an actor can tell you what that means. It means what I saw on a British airfield only the other day. The flags of the U.S. Air Force and the R.A.F. flying side by side. Symbols of another kind of cooperation.
Air crews and ground crews from both sides of the Atlantic briefing together, planning together, working together. A B-50 takes off, and behind it comes an R.A.F. Lincoln bomber. British and American planes together on the same mission. So that in the skies over England, American and Britain fly side by side, helping each other in the defense of the free world. But I feel there's a lot more to it than just that. We not only have to fly together, and if God wills, fight together, we have to remember what cooperation between us has meant in the past. We must continue and develop that cooperation to the utmost of our strength, to bring prosperity and lasting peace to the whole world. That is my report from Britain.